I did the silly route. I started off going to film school, which is a huge mistake. In my personal opinion, it just did not end up being useful for me. I didn't go to a school that really helped me build my network. I went to school with the sole purpose of learning lighting because I wanted to be a gaffer. That was my dream. Some nerve damage in my shoulder later, and that dream is no longer a thing. It is what it is, but here I am. So while I was in college, I was a desk assistant and I was a note taker for disability services. And I did that for 3 years while I was on all these film sets for school. And I graduated with no idea on how the heck to get on a set. I could set up your baby blondie redhead, any light, any piece of equipment. I could easily do a 9x. I had no issue with lighting at all. No issue with equipment. I loved it. However, all that stuff is useless if you don't know how to get on set. So whenever I graduated college, I went back to a small town. I had to give up my car because it was a lease, and I had no job for 3 months. Then I got hired to be a videographer for a cruise line, which was, fun, great, cool, yay, except I don't speak French, and it was a French cruise line, and I wanted to be on set. I didn't want to be on a boat where you only get 1 hour of service a day to really do anything. It wasn't a good fit for me. It was an incredible learning experience, but that was about it. It didn't really help me with network or experience, really. It was a fun opportunity. So that was a 2-month gig. And then I came back home where I didn't have another job for like a month. My mom had left. I was in a negative headspace in a home that I did not want to be staying in, and I had no job or car or anything to be able to even get to Houston. I lived an hour outside of Houston, and it's like to get to Houston in Uber, one, you'd have to find one in the town I lived in, and then it was like an hour-long drive. It's like $100 Uber. It wasn't feasible for me. So my first PA gig that I got was actually the December after I graduated. I flew myself out to Omaha with the money I had gotten on the cruise, and I did a PA gig for a reality show. I was your basic runner. I ran producers. I was working with producers from the beginning, and I feel like that should have been a sign, but it wasn't. Apparently I'm a little thick in the head. But for that job, I was a runner, and I was advancing producers to other locations while people were filming behind us. I didn't really mess with the equipment that I had been messing with for 4 years. I didn't do any of the stuff like that. I talked to the producers. They liked me. But I could tell I wasn't leaving the impression that I wanted to. I didn't sell myself. I didn't really show who I was or what I was capable of. I just showed, hey, I'm a kid who paid to be on your set, and I tried my best. And I think what really impressed them wasn't necessarily my work, but the fact that I was willing to fly myself out there, which don't do it unless you have to, and even then, don't do it. I don't recommend it. That was a 4-day gig. I came back, I had no job, nothing else lined up, and again, no car. They could tell I was good at my job, but I wasn't making connections. I was just a good worker, and that's fine and dandy and great and everything until you want to get the call back, and it's like, well, she's a good worker, but do we like working with her? So I was a little scared of what would happen afterwards. In February, I found Friends in Film, and I shot my shot, joined, and what was really funny was back in December, so backtrack a little bit, back in December of 2020, December of 2020, the line producer, or the production manager for Outdaughter, left to join a different show and become a line producer. So she was actually the person who hired me, which I find very funny. It's actually really funny after I tell you where I'm at now. But yeah, she was the one who hired me. She left. And the production coordinator got promoted to production manager. We didn't replace her. Well, yes, we did. We replaced her like 3 months later for a new coordinator. But then a new field producer, we had like some changes in positions and everything, and a new field producer who I've worked with a couple times now. Love her to death. She's like a genuine friend to me, which what I love about this industry, especially whenever you learn to get comfortable with yourself and be confident in yourself. It really helps expand. You develop a network, you develop friends, and it happens fast. But friends in film really helped me in knowing I could be myself. Because at first I was just like all work and super serious and not very personable, which isn't the best impression to leave with people. So I didn't feel like I left the best impression with the line producer. Which is funny because then I met the field producer and about the time I was doing Friends in Film. And Friends in Film was teaching me how to be more confident, how to start conversations, casual conversations, not just talking about work, because I'm bad about that. I will just talk about work. And I have to, it's even now, it is still a conscious effort to not do that because it comes so easy to me to just focus on that because I am a workaholic. It's insane. Like, I'm not proud of it. Don't do that. Do not become a workaholic. There's a work-life balance. I'm still figuring it out. But, so whenever I became friends with this woman, Beth, using reminders from Friends in Film, building my confidence, learning how to present myself more, really focusing on having conversations and then casually mentioning work. She brought me up to the line producer that had hired me. And the line producer was kind of shocked. It sounded like Beth, the field producer, was talking about a completely different person. But the show she was on needed a logger, which is basically just somebody who time codes all day long. But she texted me and she's like, "Hey Tara, I hope you're doing good," and all this other stuff, and offered me a job as a logger for 2 days. The pay was like a little above a PA, barely any more, maybe overall, like, I couldn't even tell you. It was so little. But I did that. And one thing that show really taught me was people notice you, even when you don't realize it. I didn't realize the impression I was leaving. And looking back on it now, it's like I hadn't even realized it, but whenever I was talking about potential story with people, I was speaking to the showrunner. Which it's like, really, Tara, you didn't pay attention? And it's like, no, they all look the same. I didn't get to introduce myself to anybody. Literally, I introduced myself to 2 field producers, and the line producer knew me. That was the only people who knew my name. And then the showrunner asked for me back because he saw how hard I was working on the second day, and I didn't realize I was sitting 2 seats away from him. So whenever he was talking about story and everything, and he kind of looked around for an answer, I spoke up. It's like, because I've been time coding it, I knew the answer. And told him what I thought and everything. And I thought that was the last of it. I was just doing my job. So I got offered the job as logger. Same rate. And I told her point blank, I was like, Lorena, as much as I want to jump on board and help you out and work with these guys because they're all really cool, I can't leave out Doddard. Y'all were my first real shot. And I love Beth. I love our DP, our cam op. I love our showrunner. I gotta stick it through because it's like another 4 more months. Lorena doesn't like being told no. She was like, "Give me a few minutes." She hangs up. My heart is pounding in my chest. I mean, like, boom, 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 boom. I have anxiety. I don't like being the center of attention. The reason Friends in Film is so good for me is because I'm like, oh yeah, I don't need to be the center of attention, but I do need to know how to get noticed. So I wait 10, 15, I think maybe 20 minutes. My friend who lent me his car earlier has been hanging out with me more. He comes over because I'm like, oh my God, I don't know what's happening. And he's like, well, breathe, for one. Got this far, must have done something right. And I was like, I don't know what's happening. And I thought that was the end of it because 20 minutes had passed, she hadn't called me back. And then she called me and she was like, so we'll pay you this much and I can get you the AP title. It was a couple hundred more than I was making. It was more experience. I'd be second in charge of a team, which I don't think I was necessarily ready for at the time, looking back on it now, but I knew I could handle the responsibilities that I had been doing, if nothing else. So a lot of the methods I learned about overcoming negative thoughts, about really selling yourself, and being personable, having conversations with people as people, not just looking at them as your next ticket to your next gig, but looking at them as people, was very helpful for me. And it was a very good reminder for me because I was so desperate in the very beginning and I was so scared of staying in that small town. Now I have moved to LA. I have my own place. I work for Disney. And actually, it's really funny. You know that line producer from way back when? Well, this is new news. She actually reached out to me a couple days ago and was asking what I'm up to. She has her own production company here in LA now. Actually, her production company worked to craft the Global Citizens Campaign and show that. They did the Olympics last year. They did a bunch of stuff. And she reached out to me and she was like, hey, Tara, what you up to? And we caught up. I asked how she was doing. She spends 1 week in LA and 3 weeks in Texas every month. She's a Texas girl. I am not. But it turns out she needs a right hand for her production company because the person she currently has right now, it's kind of like, not necessarily a good fit. And I told her, I was like, well, I'm doing this project. She was like, how long does it run? And who is it with? I was like, well, it's with Disney and Hulu. It's a documentary. And she's like, that's good for your resume. And I was like, uh-huh. So I told her it runs, till the end of May. There's some pickups in June. And she was like, well, it's already February. It's not. This was literally 3 days ago. And she was like, it's already February. And I'm like, it's the end of January. But hi, man. Time is an illusion, apparently. But she asked me if I would be interested in joining her production company afterwards. And she was like, I'll be flexible with your pickup days and everything. I need somebody who knows what they're doing. I need somebody who's confident. They're not afraid to ask questions. I don't have to micromanage and look over their shoulder. They'll just get it done and then I'll show up and it'll be great. I was like, okay. So we're going to reach back out and touch base at the end of May about all of that. And it looks like that has the potential to be my next project. And that is working with the production company. I'll be doing, hiring and firing of crew members, coordinating a bunch of stuff. I'll be doing some AP things. They do a lot of music shows, and projects, live events, a bunch of stuff like that. And then they also, one of the people that I would be working very closely with, apparently, that she told me, was the showrunner for The Voice. So that's another person that I can possibly add to my network of growing people.